Everyone, welcome to this lesson. And in this lesson, we shall be looking at the let and const keyword. Don't forget that I have told us earlier in the previous lessons that we did that we are still going to come back to talk about the let and const keyword, especially when it comes to how they behave with variables in JavaScript. Because when you are working with variables in JavaScript, you need to understand how scope work, which is the concept of what you have been looking at for a while, talking about how variables are scoped inside functions and outside an outside function, how they are scoped inside a code block independently or where they are attached to something like maybe a loop, a function, or if statement. So these are some of the things that we've actually talked about regarding scope in JavaScript. And in this series, we want to look at how the let and const keywords helps with how scopes are defined and used in JavaScript. The let and const keyword. Variables defined with let and const are hoisted to the top of the block but not initialized. As we are going to be saying in this video and subsequent videos where we are going to be diving deep into the concept of hoisting in JavaScript, and I think I've talked about it in my previous videos, that hoisting in JavaScript simply means that JavaScript moves all your variables to the top of your code block and then start execution from it. So when you have a variable that you declare and then you've given it a value or you have not maybe given it a value. So what JavaScript does is that it will move that to the top of your code block, and when it's time for execution, so since JavaScript is aware of this code, then it will start executing from that, bottom from the top down. Meaning the block of code is aware of the variable, but it cannot be used until it has been declared. So what this is basically saying is that when you have variables that are divided with let and const and are hosted to the top of the block but not initialized, these actions shows that your code block is aware of the variable, but you cannot use it until it has been declared, which means that the way we normally can have a variable with maybe have just a name, an assignment operator with a value, and then later now declare the variable and then continue to make use of that variable. That kind of action was supported with var. But since the introduction of let and const, you no longer can use variable in that manner, because if you try to use a variable declared with let and const without being initialized, JavaScript will throw a reference error that it does not understand what you are trying to do with that variable at that particular point in time. Using a let variable before it is declared will result in a reference error. The variable is in a temporal dead zone from the start of the block until it is declared. So when you have a variable, or let's say you have a name and then you have an assignment and you assign it some random variable, but without actually declaring it as a variable like that with let and const is in a temporary dead zone, in that you cannot use it until it is declared. And if you try to use a variable that has not been initialized with either let or const keyword, JavaScript will give you a reference error. So let's quickly take a look at what this really means in JavaScript. So I will take this part out. I'll come here and talked about the let and const keywords in JavaScript. These variables are hoisted to the to not initialized. So I can just leave this call inside the script tag, which is where I can add my JavaScript code, and in this particular example, I'm going to use the try catch method in order to figure out if we have an error in what we are doing. So I'm going to make a variable file car name and call the variable name car name, and then assign a value of under to it. Now, if you look at what I have here, carrying equals under. It's just a declaration, but actually it's just an assignment process of assigning value to a name, which if you take a look at, you see car name and you see the value assigned to it under. This is not yet a variable in JavaScript because I have not declared it, because no variable keyword has been added to it, whether var, let, or const, as we can see now. Now, I now say, okay, I want to now turn this into a variable and do something like this. Let's call name is equal to Benz. And then come out of this place, say catch. If there's an error inside my code, I want you to catch it. And do document dot get element ID m1 HTML equals error. Now, I am going to go ahead and try to inspect this, as you can see, to find out why I am not getting anything on the tab or the browser tab. If you take a look at this, look at the error I'm getting. I will just simply refresh this because I want to show us something. Okay, just a second. I want to quickly refresh it. Now, I'll take a look at what this is showing us. Cannot access car name before initialization, which means that this particular expression that we have here is not yet a variable declaration, just an assignment operation of adding a value to a name. And that is what this simply simplify. And that is the reason why you are seeing this reference error that cannot access car name before initialization. Even though we have this assignment of value to name on the first line, we now came down to declare that variable here, and we are getting this error that we cannot access car name before initialization. What that simply means is that we cannot use the car name before it is being declared, and it is as a result of the fact that we are using let as our keyword, as our variable keyword. If I change this to const, you should be getting the same reference error. Now, if I now change this to var, and you can see the reason why it's always been talked about the fact that you should avoid var as much as possible when it comes to variable declaration. You see that using var is not throwing an error, which has automatically made this to become a global scope variable name. So this is the reason why you should avoid using var in variable declaration. But let and const will help you to catch this kind of error and this kind of mistake, so that you don't override your variable details as you proceed in your code or in anything that you are trying to do. So this is how the let and const keyword works with hoisting and helps you prevent, beautiful bug that your normal JavaScript will not catch, but in try and catch error, you will catch it and see how not to do something in a way that will affect how your variable is being read and interpreted by JavaScript in your code. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next lesson.